that would be me. The name's Nimona. Your sidekick has arrived.
I don't need a sidekick.
Every villain needs a sidekick.
The real villain is still out there, and I do need help.
And then, who do you want to kill first?
What?
This is the part where you run. The world kicks you around sometimes. But together, we can kick it back.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Let's break stuff.
Nimona is the final film from Studios, the same animation studio that made the Ice Age franchise, Rio films, Peak Fiction, I Mean Robots, and the Peanuts movie. Nimona focuses on a knight named Ballister who is framed for murder, and the only person who can help him prove his innocence is Nimona, a shape-shifting teen who might be a monster he's sworn to kill. This film went through hell and back just to get released. I'm sure a lot of people watching this might know the story of this film's production, but for those who don't, this movie is an adaptation of a popular webcomic that was in development since 2015 at Blue Sky. However, after the Fox merger, Disney shut down the studio, causing the film to get cancelled, even though 75% of the movie was already finished. It wasn't until last year when Netflix and A4 Pictures picked up the project and announced they would finish the film and release it this year on the streaming service.
Were you killed?
Sadly, yes. But I lived.
I was excited to see this movie just from that production story alone. Normally when a film gets canceled, that's it. And it's disheartening to see all this hard work put into someone's passion project, only for it all to be thrown away. So to see a film with so much potential and so much hype around it come back from cancellation and get a second chance, my excitement was through the roof. Because movies getting uncancelled is something that just doesn't happen, and the concept of a stylistic fantasy epic was just right up my alley. Especially since I really enjoyed The Owl House, which has similar tone and atmosphere as the trailers. And after everything I just mentioned, it's really going to pain me to say this, but as you probably figured out by the title of this video, I did not like Nimona.
You what?
Why are you booing me? I haven't even explained my opinion yet! Yeah, I just couldn't get into this one, no matter how hard I tried. And just to be clear, this is not one of those clickbait videos. I don't just form an unpopular opinion about a recent movie receiving high praise just for views. Rather, I just wanted to make this video to express my problems with this film, especially since it seems like I'm the only one who felt this way. I think this film's biggest problem was how disjointed the world building was. The movie takes place in this sci-fi setting with medieval fantasy elements, which sounds cool on paper. However, I don't think the film ever found the right balance between those two kinds of settings. Not only did the Blade Runner-esque sci-fi set pieces clash with the medieval fantasy elements, but the movie is constantly shifting its focus between these vastly different set pieces, and made it nearly impossible to get immersed in the setting. And that leads me to another major problem with this film. The pacing is way too chaotic to take in anything going on. For the most part, the film moves very frantically, and because of that, we don't get time to see or properly establish every aspect of this world. Any major aspects of the world that tie directly into the story are reduced to small lines of dialogue, and because of that, it's easy to forget about them until they're brought up again. We're also told early on in the film that there are social classes between the citizens and those who are descended from higher-ups, but we never get a clear distinction between these classes at any point later in the movie. The animation also looks strangely inconsistent and sometimes unfinished throughout the film. There are a few lighting techniques and backgrounds used during the film that look cool, but the animation doesn't look like it was completely rendered whenever there's a fast-paced action sequence going on. There's a scene early on in the film where Nimona and Ballister are escaping from this castle while Nimona is constantly shapeshifting into different animals. And not only is it moving so fast to the point where you could barely take in what's happening on screen, but there's something about Nimona's animal designs that don't fit with the visual style of the movie, especially when they're flying past the bland backgrounds during that scene. And even though I loved most of the character designs, especially Nimona's, their models only work whenever they're in a dark setting. When the characters are exposed in broad daylight, you see these rough edges around them, and just like most of the animation, they don't look like they were rendered correctly. And there's way too much of a glare coming off of them most of the time. But I just want to clarify that I don't blame the creatives or animators for this. I think this is most likely the fault of Disney canceling the movie and Netflix only giving the team a year to finish it. But back on the characters, this is a very character-driven story. So it's important for a film like this to have compelling, likable characters. But unfortunately, I didn't find these characters all that interesting or likable. For most of the movie, Nimona was just really obnoxious and unlikable as a protagonist. During the first half hour, she's supposed to be carrying the entire personality of the film, but comes across as snarky and annoying, and not in a charming way. I think the movie played up the chaotic parts of her personality way too much for her to feel sympathetic during that first half of the film.
Where's the drama? The screams of terror! Squirrels scale the castle walls, dogs of peace, bloody chaos and
Shut up!
The film also does such a poor job at establishing who she is. For most of the movie, we're told that Nimona is supposed to be misunderstood and doesn't mean to cause harm or destruction. But then throughout the film, she's constantly talking about how much she wants to murder people and break things. The film even opens with Nimona wanting to be Ballister's sidekick because she thinks he's a villain. So is she supposed to be destructive or not? They also never have a scene in the film where Nimona realizes that by being destructive and murderous, she's coming across as the monster the institution and its people see her as. I understood the messages they were going for with Nimona's character, but I just found it so weird that they have her wanting to wreak havoc like that and didn't acknowledge it when her main desire is not to be seen as a monster. The film also takes so long to finally give us a backstory for Nimona so we could get attached to her. The film does establish a fun mystery to her, but it doesn't go anywhere until the very end where Nimona has a sudden shift of character and gets a prolonged flashback sequence. But even if I did become emotionally invested in Nimona by then, it felt like it was too late. I wish they foreshadowed or built on her backstory more instead of saving it till the very end so I could have gotten invested earlier. The only time where a semblance of Nimona's backstory is revealed early on in the film, it's interrupted with a bunch of unfunny jokes and doesn't reveal anything. The character bonding scenes also never felt as fleshed out as they could have been. Because of the movie's fast pacing, they're over too soon so the movie can get on with the next action sequence or series of gags. I found Ballister interesting at first, especially with how cool the setup to his story was. But he becomes so dull as the movie progresses, and it got to a point where I felt like all he was doing was saying the obvious, or screaming, "What? No! Don't do that!" over and over again. Also, this film has a twist villain, because I guess it's not a modern animated movie until there's a twist villain, and it's easily the most predictable part of the film. The moment this character walked on screen, the first thing I said was, yeah, you're the villain. There's no timeline where this person isn't the villain of this film. It's practically the canon event of this universe. And sure enough, this character is revealed to be the villain. And I could get behind the fact that there's a predictable twist like that if the villain was at least interesting or entertaining, but they aren't. This character only feels like a scapegoat just so the movie can have a villain and an outlet to convey its message, and they don't give her a personality beyond that. The other antagonist, Todd, is supposed to be more of a comedic character, but even if they got Launchpad McQuack himself to play him, his jokes were so poorly written that he became annoying and frustrating, and not in the way the movie was probably intending for him to be. The only character I found all that compelling was Ambrosius, since he was put in the difficult situation of having to live up to his name and saving the institute he's sworn to protect, even if it means capturing the man he loves most, which of course is something he doesn't want to do. And his arc of figuring out what he believes in and fights for could be a lie was handled very well, and I ended up becoming interested in his struggle by the end. But maybe the comedy could save this movie. This movie is based on a webcomic after all, and there are a lot of people in this film and behind it who are great with comedy. Unfortunately, this film rarely had anything good to offer in terms of humor. It was actually kind of shocking how unfunny and tonally inconsistent this film was. There are moments during the film where jokes are made at the absolute worst time imaginable. One example of this is near the end where Nimona has a strong emotional scene. She is in pain, Ballister is in trouble, and we don't know what's about to happen to her or the institution. And yet the film decides to cut back to more lame jokes from Todd. There are so many instances like that throughout the movie, and the jokes themselves are rarely funny. Most of the time, the humor consists of predictable gags that have been done to death in other animated movies. Aside from the internet humor the film goes for, there's also jokes about demon babies kicking butt, because what? Babies don't do stuff like that! Or when someone does something embarrassing and the characters say, awkward, long and drawn out. And what? Pineapple on pizza? That's disgusting! Also, someone dabs at one point. Why? We're in 2023, we should be beyond this kind of outdated humor. Even the exchanges between the actors didn't get too many laughs. Most of the interactions between Nimona and Ballister are Nimona going, "Oh yeah, I'm going to kill some people." And Ballister going, No, you can't kill those people." There's around 100 conversations like that throughout the film and it gets old fast. I don't normally label something as cringe since that phrase can be overused, but there was one scene in the middle of this film where a dance sequence breaks out. Nimona transforms into a shark and dances with Ballister in a party cave, while the film rapidly cuts back to the chaos going on in the institution and their hideout. And I actually locked up. I couldn't believe what I was watching. At best, the jokes that did land only got a few chuckles, but for the most part, the movie's attempts at humor are consistently unfunny. And I won't go into spoiler territory, but I have very mixed thoughts on the ending. At face value, it's phenomenally executed and pays off all the characterization and story beats in the film near perfectly. In fact, I'd even say it's one of the best third acts I've seen in an animated movie. But even at that, it feels like a one-to-one copy of The Iron Giant with how it's executed, and doesn't commit to the theme of not everyone getting a happy ending. I won't say what happened, but let's just say fake-out deaths during the finale seems to be a trend with movies in 2023. But even though I didn't like the way Nimona was written, Chloe Grace Moretz is awesome in the role, and she gives a very charismatic performance that helps make this character more tolerable than she would be otherwise. And she nails every emotional scene with her character, especially towards the end. Riz Ahmed is also really good in the film as Ballister. He's a great actor, and I think he was perfectly cast in this, even though his character spends most of the film repeating the same trite dialogue over and over again. Eugene Lee Yang has a lot of fun moments as Ambrosius, and as I mentioned, I found him to be the most compelling character in the film. Unfortunately, Frances Conroy did not stick out to me as the director, but I feel like this is less her fault and more so the script not giving her anything interesting to work with. And the same thing seemed to happen to Beck Bennett as Todd, where, as I said, his character is written to be so irritating and unfunny that there's barely anything that I feel he could have worked with for a decent voice performance. Okay, I think that's enough negatives. There were other things I did appreciate about the movie. One thing I really liked about the film were the music choices. I think the score by Christoph Beck was excellent. This was his second time working on a Blue Sky film after the Peanuts movie, and he did a great job complimenting every scene. I also think the heavy metal music used in the film was a perfect fit considering Nimona's personality and the overall tone of the movie. Most of the action sequences were also very well realized and directed. The film's directors Troy Quay and Nick Bruno seem to have a gift for directing impressive animated action scenes, if their work on this and Spies in Disguise was anything to write off of. And I hope to see more animated films from them in the future. The messages about intolerance were also phenomenally executed. This film was more mature and thought-provoking with its messaging, which I wasn't expecting, but it was more than welcome. And as many have said, the representation in this film is great. Also, this isn't a criticism, rather a weird detail I spotted during the film. Basically, there's a serial in the universe of this film, and for some reason, instead of creating a new music theme for that fictional brand, the film just reuses the Banana Splits theme song? What? Yeah, nice try, movie, but I saw the 10 out of 10 Cinematic Achievement knows the Banana Splits movie. You can't fool me. Nimona might be the most disappointing film of the year so far. Despite its good intentions and clear passion put into it, the movie suffers from disjointed world building, obnoxious humor that falls flat on its face, inconsistent animation, a lack of investment for the majority of its runtime, and a mixed bag of characters that either get on your nerves or are instantly forgettable. As I said, there are some great things in this film, like the voice acting, direction, character designs, music, action, and even the representation is very well handled. But it can't make up for these glaring problems in the script that detract from the experience and cause the film to be a complete train wreck of an animated film, at least in terms of execution. Once again, I can't tell if most of these problems are the result of the film being written this way, or the crew being given less than a year to finish it, but either way, it just caused the film to fall apart. Overall, I'm really happy that Blue Sky got to finish this movie, as it's easily their most ambitious film to date, and it's clear everyone put their all into it. This movie had a lot of talented people behind it, and I'm glad to see that not only did they get to release this film after everything they went through to complete it, but that they're receiving praise for their work, and I can understand why so many love this film. At this point, you're probably expecting me to not recommend it, but I actually encourage you guys to check this out. It's extremely rare for cancelled films to get revived like this, and small anime projects could use all the support they need. And also because based on everyone else's reactions, I seem to be the only one who thinks this way, so maybe you'll have a good time with this. Film is subjective, opinions are valid, and I'm so happy to hear this film blew your minds even if it didn't work out for me. At first, I was going to give this a lower score, but I decided to round up as a courtesy to the team behind this since, as I mentioned, there could be the possibility most of these issues were due to the cancellation and the short time they had to finish the movie. With that said, I'm going to give Nimona a 4 out of 10, but I don't think I can go higher than that. So those were my thoughts on Nimona. Feel free to leave your thoughts on the film in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on the film. I am open to all opinions and I can't wait to see your essays on why I'm wrong. Anyways, thanks again for watching. If you like this review and you want to see more, be sure to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button. That really helps me out. And remember to like the video and ring the notification bell to be notified for any upcoming reviews. And I mean, it's just a review. It's not like Nimona and Ballister are going to watch this and hunt me down, right? Right?
Fine.
Murder 'em.
Myself.
I'm screwed.